Hello YouTube, this is Ed4 here with another episode of my drift guide, drifting techniques, and in today's episode we're going to be going through how to do a backwards entry, and I'm going to be showing you lots of clips here and explaining all kinds of things. First of all, I'd like to address what a backwards entry is. A lot of people get them confused with 90-degree entries. 90-degree entry basically means you're getting lots of angle. This is a backwards entry. Now some people may say, well, 90-degree entry is the same thing, but a backwards entry means your car is literally going backwards. So it's also known as a stall drift, which I think is a better name for it, because if you weren't holding the clutch in when you're doing a backwards entry, your car would stall, because the rear wheels of the car should be going backwards. Now to illustrate this, here I have like a slow-mo replay where you can see my rear wheels. Maybe you won't be able to see it quite so easily in standard definition, but if you're watching in HD, then you'll be able to see here as I rewind it. Why am I rewinding it? Okay, here we go. I go in here and you'll be able to see what the rear wheel is doing. So there we go, I've got the handbrake on, and look at it slowing down and then going backwards. I'm not doing that. I'm not sticking it in reverse. The rear wheel really did just go backwards, and that's because I got so much angle that the car was then going backwards into the corner, so the rear wheel was turning backwards, which makes it a backwards entry. And like I said, if you didn't have the clutch down, that would stall the car, because if you're in a forward gear and your wheels are going backwards, then you have to have the clutch down for that to work. And here we go again, there's another example. I do hold the handbrake there before they go backwards, but as you can see the wheels are turning backwards, and I'm probably in about third gear there, so definitely had the clutch down. And I release the clutch about now. You can see where I release the clutch and start accelerating. It's important where you do that as well, but I'll talk more about that later. Okay, this clip is to illustrate that you do not need a tune. I did stress in another video, and other people were saying, yeah, whatever, you need a tune to do this, and people want my tunes. This is a stock Chevy Nova. Stock. This thing is so heavy and hardly has enough power to do a good drift, and I just did a massive backwards entry into the Laguna Seca corner. And here's another replay of it. It's just to prove that you don't need lots of power, you don't need a good tune, you just need a car, and you can do them. So there you go. Okay, so now I'm going to be going through lots of clips where I'm basically showing all my favourite places to do backwards entries. Obviously for Jimmy Kaido is one of my top favourite places to do it. Woo! Get a little wall tap there, a little cheeky wall tap. But what I'd also like to talk about is the speed and timing that it takes to do a backwards entry. So every one of these corners has a long kind of straight or somewhere before it where you can get lots of speed into it, and that is crucial, absolutely crucial. You have to be able to get more speed than you need to get into the corner, more speed than you need. So you need to be going fast enough so that it makes it fast enough to do a backwards entry. And here I've got the telemetry up so you can see what kind of timing I'm using. There's a little bit of extra handbrake there, but you're basically throwing it in quite hard, and as the car comes round it will go backwards. You need to be at full lock by that point, and you need to kind of follow the car round with the lock of your wheel, and it will often, I'll show you it again here, more often than not, you will reach full lock before you're at max angle, and that is also key. The timing of when you turn the wheel is crucial. As you can see, I got full lock before it got to the max angle, and that's the reason why it still pulled it back. And also what you need to get the timing right for is when you release the clutch. So here's a good example on Road Atlanta. I go in, watch the clutch, that's that dark green, and now watch the accelerator come in now. There's a little bit of brakes there. A little bit of accelerator now, not full throttle, and I release the clutch and I don't floor it on the accelerator straight away. I just let the car kind of start to gain momentum with the accelerator again. And you have to make sure that that happens once your car starts bringing back the angle. Not the moment that it brings back angle, not the moment that it catches it, as it starts bringing it back. Notice what the car looks like when I release the clutch, so it's that dark green line. See how it was pulling it back? You can let it pull almost all the way back before you release the clutch, but it is pretty important that you have a clutch. It makes it a lot easier to have a clutch, because if you're using just normal manual, then it can make it really difficult to time it right, and also the wheels can start spinning by themselves a bit where the clutch is kind of half down. It's a bit weird, and also your car can kind of bog a bit because of the wheels going backwards. The game will initiate the clutch and let the wheels go backwards because you've got it on manual, but it's not quite the same as having the clutch all the way in. It's a bit weird how the game does it, but best way to do it is to learn how to use clutch. And you can see here me using the clutch quite a lot. Even gave it a little pump to get me around the corner. So yeah, timing and speed is what's really key to doing a backwards entry and getting it right. And there are other things that can help in the tune, which I will go through. But the main point of this video is that I want to say that it's not really about a tune. It's just you and getting your speed and your timing right. You need to have more speed than the corner needs, and you need to be able to time your clutch release and time the amount of throttle you need at exactly the right time, otherwise you're just going to spin out. Okay, so next here is another thing I want to talk about, which is the size of your car. So here I'm in a Scion FRS, and it's got a much shorter wheelbase than my Supra. So here I'm going to go at 100 miles an hour through these tyres and do basically a backwards entry through the tyres. And as you can see, I managed to not hit the wall. And that's because the wheelbase of that car is quite small. It's only just bigger than an MX-5, a FRS. It's only a little bit bigger than an MX-5, so it's actually quite a small car, whereas a Toyota Supra is very long. And here again, coming through these tyres at 100 miles an hour, I tried to initiate at the same place. I did my best to do that, and again went in with about the same amount of angle, full lock again, and I really did try my best not to hit the wall, but the car just couldn't pull it back, and that's because the wheelbase of that car is longer than the FRS. So that's something to bear in mind, that a shorter wheelbase will help you pull back angle a little bit easier. But I'm going to show you a few things in the tuning setup that can help with that as well, because as you could see, my Supra was easily doing backwards entries on all of those corners. And here we're going to look at my 240SX, which you saw in the Fujimi Kaido video that everyone knows about for some reason. I think it's got like 80,000 views now, which is insane. But anyway, I'm going to go through the tune, and the alignment setting is very important. I think the most important thing to have on the alignment is a caster angle of 7. And here I'm illustrating you could have less camber. Less camber will help on backwards entries. I just find that. I find that about -1.2 is about perfect. So you could have like -1.2 camber and your car will get really nice backwards entries. I've just got more camber on this because I felt like it. Front toe can help as well. It just helps stabilise your car when it's at max angle, and it might help to have a little bit of toe if you're inexperienced. And here, the caster is the most important thing, because if you have front caster at 7 and low amount of front camber, then the wheels will be able to go into, like, if you watch the Kawabata doing a massive backwards entry on D1, you'll notice his front wheels going like crazy amounts of positive camber, because he's got so much caster on that car, it's insane. Another thing I'd like to look at is the damping settings. Soft rear damping settings seems to help me. I don't know why, but also if you have a stiff front, that helps. Don't know the full story, why, but it does. And also, braking balance, you need to have a little bit to the rear of the balance, because having that means that when you lock up your brakes you will gain a bit of angle, and sometimes you can use that to kind of control the amount of angle that you're getting. So if you were going into a corner and you feel like you're going in a little bit too hard, you can slam on the brakes and it will just slow down the amount of angle that you're getting. Also, having a deceleration setting on your differential quite low should help your car to kind of gain angle, because the rear wheels will be able to move more independently and it will allow them to go backwards, and when they go backwards it will be a more free kind of thing. Anyway, so we're getting towards the end of the video here. So main points here: you don't need a tune, you can still do it in a stock car, it's just a little bit more difficult. We've gone through everything you need for a tune, so max your caster out and lower your front camber and it might help you. Also, soft rear suspension and stiff front suspension. The difference, if you have a larger difference in suspension settings between the front and the rear, then I feel that that helps me to get angle. Now, I can't really put my finger on exactly why, but I just feel personally that that helps. Braking, have your brake bias towards the rear, so that when you slam on the brakes it will gain angle when you're doing it at kind of like a really steady pace if you lock your brakes up. Differential, you want to have your deceleration lower, because that will allow your rear tyres to do that kind of backwards motion more easily and a bit more fluid than it would do if it was 100%, because if it was 100% they'd have to move at the same place, which would mean that the rear tyres would have to move at the same time going backwards, and they wouldn't be able to kind of like go with the flow of what you're doing. So that might create a bit of understeer and it might make you spin out as well. And also wheelbase. Shorter wheelbase cars will pull back angle easier. Always. That always happens. So an MX-5 is probably amazing at backwards entries, but it won't be totally insanely good. It's only a small amount. You saw there the amount that it did between a Supra and an FRS. And yeah, I think that's about it. I showed you all the corners that I like to use, and I showed you my tunes, and I showed you pretty much everything. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and yeah, see you later.